everyone. We're here to meet with Geraldine, and now that you've read her chapter, we thought this would be an awesome opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about Geraldine and more about her story and who she is and where she comes from. So, Geraldine, can you give us a little bit of your bio?
Hi, Pamela. Thank you for coordinating all of this. It's a real honor. Well, a little bit about myself. I always have been intrigued by helping people. That's the basis. My value, my base value is helping people. I have gone from um, I went to school for social services with an Indigenous specialization. That really helped me understand the spiritual world too, from an Indigenous point of view, with the four quadrants of healing, the spiritual, um, the the financial, like everything, the whole um, piece that um, no, gonna have to edit that piece. So the spiritual and the well-being, the
Mm-hmm.
emotional, those aspects. Um, I've done quantum touch. I've done Psych K. I've also have a certification for Dr. Joe Dispenza's. Um, is it Dr. Joe Dispenza's? It's a belief clearing practitioner.
Okay.
Yes, so I have a certificate with that as well. Um, a lot of different modalities I've experienced personally, like body
Mm-hmm.
talk and holistic healing with homeopaths, that type of thing. So
Okay.
I've experienced lots and I've learned lots and I've read a lot of books. Louise Hay was always one of my favorites.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, how did you first become aware of your spiritual connection with your father, who you'd never met?
Well, it was always because of nature. I grew up in the country,
Mm-hmm.
and as a child, I had a lot of time in nature. You know, I talked to the butterflies and I talked to the frogs, and I was connected with
Yeah.
nature. Um, and it was my father that really started coming through. I started with wanting to know more about my dreams, and what they meant, and how our subconscious mind insights into our fears and into our desires and anxieties, that kind of thing. And so I started, digging into dreams, and then that went from that kind of morphed into I met a lady named Deanne Raidu. She owns Rose Hope. She's an amazing person. I was in a master class with her and was fascinated really with her story. She had a near-death experience, and the near-death experience and the fact that my father had passed away, and she is into the spiritual realm. She did an Akashic reading for me,
Okay.
and she revealed that my father stood at the base of my bed every night and watched over me as I grew up.
Mm.
And so that really, um, it was comforting, and
Yeah.
it was also, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know, um, what that meant.
So,
How.
did that affect your sense of identity and safety?
Well, that was definitely something that, yes, I felt safe. It was knowing that he was watching over me, that I could always call on him. After that Akashic reading, it was a real comfort.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I always felt his presence. Like I
Yeah.
always felt his presence as a child. I didn't quite know what it was. I couldn't identify it when I was a child. And as I grew up, I started to, ask those questions and what that really meant. And I learned about, feathers and finding a dime, and, a song would come on the radio,
Mhm.
and the words of that song were, directly speaking
Yes.
to what I was feeling.
Mhm. Yeah, I've
And
had
I,
that happen a number of times as well.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think, like, being in tuned to those type of hints, from
Okay.
the universe was
Mhm.
something that I learned more about, and I learned to pay attention to those. So
Okay. So
being still is important
yes.
to
Yes.
find those
And
clues.
that really leads me into my next question, which is when you said not again in your chapter, what deeper awareness or emotion was activated in that moment?
Well, I was angry.
Yeah.
I was very angry. A fury of emotions, really. It was it was revenge. It was deep conviction to fight back against, well, my stepfather passed away by a drunk driver, so I was very passionate about drinking and driving.
Okay.
um, I remember, embracing the warrior identity. That's what I was just, stoic in the, like, it's now my fight. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
now what I'm going to live my life for.
Mhm.
The awareness of drinking and
Kind of
driving and
battle
that kind of
cry.
thing, and
Yeah.
and grief. That was something that, a lot of people don't want to talk about grief.
No.
It's a scary thing,
Mhm.
but it's a real thing, and it's a helpful thing
Yeah.
if you really look at it. It's there to guide you. It's there to,
Mhm.
um, to hold you close.
Yeah.
And it's everybody grieves differently,
Yeah.
obviously, but moving through it is harder for some,
Mhm.
and realizing, the why of it all, you
Yeah.
know. So that was something that, um, you know, I later found out that holding on to these deep emotions were affecting my health. And that's something that I learned as well, that, when you hold on to heavy emotions, they affect your cells, they affect your physical health. And
Mhm.
so from there, it was a whole, okay, well, now I need to release
Yep.
this anger and this, how can I let it go? How can I heal from it? How can I learn from it? How can I help others heal from grief? And so
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it was sort of going with me. And yeah.
I I had a recent experience with as we've been publishing this book, I had just all of a sudden I have all this pain in my knee. And one of the authors said, "Well," and I said I mentioned it's my left knee, and she says, "Well, that's heartbreak.
Mm,
That signifies in your body of heartbreak." And I'm like, "Really? I did not realize that." And and as I've been looking further into, well, when did it start?
mhm,
Well, it started on this day, which was the day that this happened. And it's just like, oh. And
mhm,
so I've actually been learning that love is not loss,
mhm,
and that having it to where you're holding on to that loss because I love that person.
mhm,
Right? And so being
mhm,
that I have all that loss, I have all that grief, I must love them more. No, no, that is not love. Love is not loss. And so, your story has definitely, I've learned a lot of that over this last little while of going through and publishing this book.
mhm,
So, so you've already
mhm.
touched one person by your story. So,
Right.
uh, and as far as how we deal with grief, yeah. So, um, so let's turn to the part of your chapter where talks about the article. So, do you believe the discovery of the WSIB article was a coincidence or a spiritual communication?
Well, I just want to start with saying that over my learning curve
Uh-huh.
with all of this, that there is no such thing as coincidences. That everything is a synchronicity, and I do really believe that um, the connection. So my connection to my husband, who had a workplace accident before I met him,
Mm-hmm.
this affected our lives quite a bit. And so through that experience, I helped him through, you know, getting a pension and
Mm-hmm.
getting back time pay for his before his knee injury,
Okay.
and learning this process and learning how WSIB or WCB,
Mm-hmm.
and then the
Where
name
you are?
changed WSIB, yes. How they work, and how diligent you need to be with
Oh yeah.
them,
Yep.
and the success, of our story, sort of translates into, seeing that article in that paper that day. It was, I had all this life experience with my husband, but then it came full circle to my birth father and my
Mm-hmm.
mother, and how that all transpired in that article. It just jumped out at me because I was living it. Like I was living it with my husband, and we went through poverty because WSIB wasn't taking care of my husband the way they should have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole other layer to my story that I didn't write about. But myself, I was in a car accident while working,
Mm-hmm.
and so we had no income. My husband was on WSIB, and they weren't you know um, not coming clean, but they were hesitant. They were trying to backpedal, and they didn't. We had to do all kinds of jumping through hoops to even get coverage for him while he wasn't working. I wasn't working. I was injured. Both of us were injured at home.
Yeah.
So it was quite a trying time. but
Mm-hmm.
I but I do believe the connection. There's synchronicities in life that you don't know why they're happening at the moment. You don't, but later you see
Mm-hmm.
the connection. You
Yeah.
can pinpoint the dots. You can connect the dots, and then it's like an eye opener.
Mm-hmm. So,
Mhm.
so what did those retroactive survivor benefits mean to you and your family beyond the money?
Well, it was acknowledgement. It was acknowledgement from WSIB that my father's death was significant and not forgotten.
Okay.
That was very important. It was a small piece of closure.
Mm-hmm.
It was something to remember him. It was being grateful for every month.
Yeah.
It was that gratefulness, that knowing that my mom was not going to be struggling.
Mm-hmm.
It was that sense of gratitude toward the universe for taking care of us, for listening, for just being there, and guiding my hand, to grab that. And I don't talk about it in the story, but my mom had that pile of recycling,
Mm-hmm.
and I grabbed the article out of the recycling. She grabbed it back out of my hand. Well, I grabbed it back from her, and she grabbed it back out of my hand. And I said, "No, I want it." She, "Why were you reading this?" And so there was a moment I could have given up. I could have not grabbed it back out of her hand, but this went back and forth a couple of times. And
Mm-hmm.
then finally I said, "Just let me read it." Like, because, I thought it had something to do with knowledge of my husband's situation and experience
Okay.
and claim and that kind of thing. That was more prevalent in my mind at the time, because
Right.
we were going through the same a WSIB experience. So and it turned out it wasn't. It was from my mom.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
that
first
is
father.
so that is just so cool that
Yeah. And I
that
often wonder, I was after reading that and years going by, I often wonder, you know, how many other families that article benefited
mhm.
and how many other families missed that article and didn't read it because
Yeah,
there was a time frame that you had to respond or you didn't get the
yeah,
benefit.
exactly. And yet how many of us actually pick up the paper and read
Some
it,
random,
especially nowadays,
yeah,
you know? And yet
yeah.
so so at this moment,
Hmm.
affirm or how did this moment affirm or deepen your calling as a healer and mentor?
Well, it started like my journey started with a question.
Okay.
How can I mourn something so deeply or someone that I missed so deeply that I didn't know?
Mhm.
I never knew him. He passed away before I was born. Why is there such a void for something that I never knew? How is that possible? How does my body know to be sad for a father that I never knew? And so that was kind of the question that was really, it was percolating. And so that's where, I started diving deeper into dreams and into, you know, the spiritual world and having my Akashic records read that day and taking workshops and different online classes that just helped me through finding more out about really what that means. um, I guess my education, being closer to the indigenous culture really really made me aware of how the earth and our existence on this earth, what does that mean? How can we be of service? There's always that, right? And I have a Christian background. So the spiritual, God has always been a part of my life.
Mhm.
um and then you evolve and obviously there's more to just um your belief. Your belief goes beyond um a church, I'm gonna say, for me anyway.
Yeah.
So it got into the different dimensions.
Mhm. Yeah, the church is more that community. It's actually more
Yes,
that relationship and that reality that there is there is a creator.
there is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so this question really touches my heart because of my love of um of family history. And then
Mhm.
what would you say to someone who feels disconnected from their ancestors or story of origin?
Well, I would highly encourage them to learn more about I don't know, not really afterlife, but the spiritual world, and
Mhm.
connect to their own self more so that they understand where they are and what their purpose is
Mhm.
on this earth.
Yeah.
Because it goes beyond your grief, really,
Mhm.
because my situation and my grief, if I only focused on that, I would still be there.
Mhm.
I wanted to focus on how that could help others, how that could change someone else's perspective, of death. How
Yeah.
how can that change someone's other, perspective of how do you go on living when you are, so stricken with grief.
Yeah.
It's and helping people understand that there is, you know, I mean, in a sense, life after death. And maybe that's what it really means, that it's really not, there isn't really life after death, but you can still live after someone that you truly, truly care about and loved dies. So there is life after death in that sense.
I I I I'm of the belief that we experience grief because we are eternal beings. And so being that we are eternal, we know that life is actually eternal. And so that so for us, that death doesn't really make sense because
Mm-hmm.
we know what eternity is, because we know that we are eternal. We know that we lived before we came here, and we know that we will live beyond here. And and when that that someone is no longer in our current reality, it kind of defies that paradigm that we have, and I'm not going to say it's necessarily a paradigm, that foundational spiritual belief and core value that life is eternal. So how can this person cease to exist? Well, it's not that they cease to exist, they have merely moved into the kitchen. They've merely moved into another room that we may or may not be able to see or sense,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Like, yeah, their purpose here on earth, they're going to their next purpose. And it's giving people hope to believe that, they're on another mission, right? They're on
Mm,
another mission somewhere else, helping someone else.
yeah.
And the lessons that they've left with us to learn, you know is our lessons to learn, but it's also, to share with others in hopes that they can see the beauty,
Hmm.
the beauty in death. I mean, I've watched someone pass away. I've watched someone, take their last breath, and
Yeah.
it's very moving. It's very spiritual, and unless you've experienced it, it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
You
For
know,
me, it's the most beautiful experience in the world.
it's like birth and death. Like
It's
it's
it's actually it's like birth in reverse.
in reverse. Yeah.
Yes, yes. When my husband passed away, it was 9 months later that I had this dream. And I was walking into this room. It was all white. And there was a nurse that laughed, and he was sitting in this big kind of recliner chair. And I walk up to the chair, and he says, "See, I'm all better now." But it took 9 months
Hmm.
because he was sick when he died. And it took, 9 months. It wasn't an instantaneous thing. It was
Hmm.
like he had to go through a nine, you see the 9 months in there? It's like he had
Hmm.
to go through that experience in reverse in order to heal the earth stains and the
Hmm.
physical effects of of being of having the experience of being here on earth.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Wow.
And I think that we all get that experience,
Hmm.
that we'll heal it here, or we will heal it after here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. It's easier to heal it here though.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And there's many people that, can guide us through that healing.
Hmm.
And I really encourage people that are going through any type of difficulty is to find that person that can help you heal and help you move through those emotions, so that not a lot of time, you don't stay in one grief stage too long,
Yeah.
because it's harmful.
Mhm.
Imagine what you could be doing in 6 months, if you didn't grieve for 5 years, you know, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I know
Yes.
people, it's called complicated grief,
Yep.
and people live in that complicated grief state
Mm-hmm.
far too long, and their lives aren't blossoming. They're they're not growing. It's hard to watch. And I mean, and that's one of the reasons why um I I had a dream. I had a dream as well. And I had a dream, and someone at the spiritual guide told me to build a labyrinth. And so I
Ah,
have I have 130 acres
okay.
of property in the country where I grew up, and it was my uncle's property, and I also
Yes.
own the adjacent piece of property, which is my grandmother's.
Mm-hmm.
And I was guided to build a labyrinth. And so that is part of my journey. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of my service to others.
Yeah.
I want to do that at some point.
So just for those who are watching, I know what a labyrinth is because I have a good friend of mine who he he took me on one of the a labyrinth that is right by where he lives. And and so can you explain to our viewers what is a labyrinth?
Okay, so and you're pronouncing it different than me, so that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Okay.
What a lot of people think a labyrinth is a maze,
Yes.
but it's not a maze. It's not a way to find your way out.
No.
It's it's an intentional walk through your spiritual life. From what I learned, we did a day course with a labyrinth um, teacher, and she told us the proper way of walking through a labyrinth is with intention. And so when you step into a labyrinth and walk through um, the space, because there's many different designs, you walk in like the day that was the day you were born.
Okay.
And then intuitively you walk through your life in your memory, and you walk through slowly, and you feel the emotions that come through. And so just to give you an example, when I walked through the labyrinth, well, to tell you the truth, I couldn't step into the labyrinth.
Ah.
It took me a really long time to step into the labyrinth because my father died before I was born. I wasn't able to step into the labyrinth because I had grief as as a fetus,
Yeah.
and so I couldn't step into the
Yeah.
labyrinth.
Yep.
And
I
so
totally
I
believe
had
that.
to I had to move through those emotions. And so then I walked through, and I remembered being in, as a child and growing up in the country with my grandmother, and it being peaceful and loving. And then I got to the point where my stepfather was hit by the drunk driver,
Right.
and I stopped dead in my tracks. I physically couldn't move any farther. I could not take that step again until I processed those emotions. And so then once I, cried and cried and cried, it probably took me 10 minutes before I took that step.
Mm-hmm.
I cried it all out, and then I kept walking through, and I got to the center. And then from the center, you're supposed to reflect on that journey,
Okay.
and you're supposed to stay in the center for as long as you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And then with intention, you walk with your intention as how you want to live your life, moving out of the labyrinth.
So then you follow the same course back through.
Follow the same course back through.
Okay.
So you enter the same as you exit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you're saying that it's a different design for everyone.
It is a different experience for everyone, and there's
Okay.
different labyrinth designs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're
that's
more intricate. There's some simple ones that are very simple, and it's only, a 5-minute walk. Or
mhm,
there's large ones that can take you hours
Okay.
to
Yeah.
walk.
There's a
Or
there's a church downtown here that actually has an indoor one.
yes, and an
Yeah.
outdoor one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one outside. And I wish I had the name of the person, but I know it was I took an online course on how to build a labyrinth with
Okay.
Lars Hewitt. And
Wow.
he's from I can't remember the name. I wish I would have wrote it down. I can't.
Really, because you know what? My grandmother's name is Hewitt.
Oh, really?
Really? So we're gonna definitely have to find out, baby. I'm related to him.
To Lars. Yeah.
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 Yeah. You never know.
Yeah. He's a master labyrinth builder.
Okay.
It's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for this
You're
time.
welcome.
And so, how can people get in touch with you, Geraldine?
They can look at my website, which
Okay.
is the Healing Retreat. It's www my happy place retreat.ca, I believe, .ca.
Okay.
And that gives you a lot of information in there, a little bit about my space. It has an opportunity for people if they want to hold a yoga retreat or a meditation retreat, that kind of thing. So it's in progress. It's like a website in progress. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So
That's
and I do have an Instagram page. It's um, find yourself. So finding yourself. Wait a second.
that's really cool, and especially with the breath. It's like find
Mhm.
yourself.
That's
That.
where you find yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's where dot you find yourself
Ah.
is my
Yes.
Instagram. So
Okay.
that's where dot you find yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's so cool. Okay. Well,
You can
thank you
reach out to
so
me
much
there.
for this time, Geraldine.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate everything.
Okay.